Hey everyone, I'm StickManHere, and welcome back to my second channel, StickManThere. So, I've played a lot of games on my main channel, StickManHere, and today I'm going to be reviewing even more of them. By the way, like I said in the last video, all games have some level of effort put into them, so I don't mean to offend any developers with my ratings. Anyways, let's get into it. TimeShifters is a PS1-style first-person shooter game that has several different modes, such as Story, the basic mode, Lay Pig, which has you control a pig in like a race or something, it's weird, 180, just a darts game, and Fight Off the Living Dead, just a zombie game. Fun fact, TimeShifters is heavily based off of games like Time Splitters and GoldenEye 007. Now, my experience with TimeShifters wasn't particularly amazing, but here are some of the positives I experienced. Firstly, there are a ton of modes. The ones I just listed are only a small portion of what the game has to offer. The best part about this is that most modes aren't even FPS kill-em-all type modes like the Story. For example, Lay Pig. You drive a pig in a race in the first Lay Pig mode, and you get the pig to fly and hit a target in the second. It is really weird, but it proved to be pretty fun. Now, let's talk about that word. Fun. TimeShifters did not have a lot of it. I know I just said that the Lay Pig game mode was pretty fun, but that was the only part of the game I remotely enjoyed. The rest of it was just a bland, complex mishmash of random stuff for me. I understand some people probably enjoy the whole concept and maybe even game of TimeShifters a lot more than I do, and that's completely fine. This is just my personal opinion, and it could change. I'm also probably gonna have some controversial opinions later on in this series, so stay tuned for those. Yay, making a fool of myself. Anyways, the game just threw me into the adventure, and I had no idea what the hell was going on. Of course, this was also about a year ago, so I had no idea how these types of games even functioned. And finally, the nail in the coffin, the price. I know a game with this much content should probably be worth the $5, but it personally was not for me. I wouldn't necessarily consider it a ripoff, but considering Shift Happens was only $1.59, I feel like changes could be made. 4 out of 10. Planetary Planter is a game where you, a scientist, work on a farm in space that grows planets and suns and stuff. In order to collect the seeds for planets, you must venture out of your farm and harvest them from enormous space plants that may be guarded by enemies. That's it. I know it's not a lot, but the game is still very fun and interesting. So, the pros. It's relaxing and not difficult at all. It's really just one of those games that you just sit down and mess around with when you have nothing better to do. There's no competition or anything, and it's just a relaxing and fun time. I also love how you collect the different suns and planets and stuff, as I'm a collector and love gathering all types of things to complete some sort of index. Another great thing about the game is that it's completely free. No money required. I would say this game might even be worth $5, but no, it's completely free. Now, the cons. Firstly, the game doesn't look amazing. Of course, it is free, so I shouldn't expect so much from it. Another thing is that the game gets boring really fast. I played for about 20 minutes and got bored after probably 10. It is supposed to be a relaxing, laid-back game though, so that is probably why. Anyways, I'll give Planetary Planter a 6 out of 10. Space Monkey is a platformer game, so similar to the Super Mario games, where you play as either a monkey or a panda that has an instrument that you use to defend yourself from hordes of hamsters that are supposed to be your fans. I just don't understand why a musician would be slaughtering their fans, but it's a strange game, alright? In fact, there's even hamsters that fart everywhere. Weird game. Anyways, Space Monkey is actually a surprisingly good game. It's super fun, especially when you get to just smack those hamsters to the moon. Each level is completely different, introducing new mechanics over time. There's actually even a multiplayer mode in this game where you can play with one other person. I was actually considering doing a standalone video with Jack on this game. The music in this game is also amazing. It's relaxing and soothing, while also being an absolute bop at the same time. And finally, the best part of Space Monkey, it's free. Yeah, all of that is completely free. There's a lot of games in this video that cost less than they should, but hey, that's a good thing. Now, the cons. There really aren't any. Of course, I recorded Space Monkey a year ago, so I could probably delve deep into my mind to find some cons, but I'm too lazy to, so that's out of the question. I mean, I guess there are some levels that are kind of boring, like where you just jump on drums for half the level, but not really that much. Anyways, Space Monkey gets a 9 out of 10. So, I'm sure all of you know what Hollow Knight is, but if you don't, it's basically a Metroidvania game that takes place in a dark world filled with bug creatures that all want to kill you. For those of you that don't know what the term Metroidvania means, it's basically a platformer game that relies on being non-linear, basically forcing you to traverse different areas of the map to obtain different equipment or items to progress. Of course, I played it so long ago that my opinions have probably changed drastically since then. Anyways, the game is actually pretty massive, and I really enjoy the whole open world concept. Also, I did only fight one boss in my video, but it was actually a pretty cool boss. So, here's the negatives. Like I said before, my opinions on Hollow Knight have probably changed drastically since when I last played, and I also only played for a small amount of time, so this entire review is really obscured by the fog of past time. Anyways, I actually discontinued my Hollow Knight series because I wasn't enjoying the game when I tried playing it again. I'm not even entirely sure why, but it just didn't pop out to me the same after the first episode. So I guess I'll give Hollow Knight a really foggy 6 out of 10. I'm sure you guys know what platform fighters are, right? Well, if you don't, they're basically games that have you and other people, or CPUs, fight on some platforms, and whoever gets knocked out first loses a life. It's just Super Smash Bros. Anywho, MultiVersus is a platform fighter, and the interesting thing about the game is that it includes WB characters, such as Bugs Bunny, Superman, and Steven Universe. I actually have a lot of positives for MultiVersus. I know it doesn't look it, but the game is actually really fun and interesting, and it's always a challenge to try and get more wins. You also have to unlock new characters over time, so if you want a certain character, you need to keep playing the game more and more. Speaking of characters, each character has a unique and vibrant moveset and array of abilities that can help you win a battle. For example, Iron Giant is a tanky character that moves slowly but is hard to knock off stage, but Jake from Adventure Time is a speedy yet light character that is easy to knock off stage. There are also a ton of different characters, so that's a cool incentive as well. For the negatives, there really are none. I mean, an obvious one is the game's current lack of popularity, as the entire concept of the game pretty heavily relies on other people, at least for the game to be fun. According to Steam charts, the average amount of players in the last 30 days is 40 players. Yeah. Anyways, despite its downfall, MultiVersus is still, or I guess was, a very fun game, so I'll give it an 8 out of 10. The Battle Cats is a tower defense game where you send different types of cats to battle some random animals and creatures, ranging from dogs to pigs to floating human faces. Eek. Yeah, it's a pretty weird game. The Battle Cats is a very popular game, and it deserves to be, as it's incredibly fun. Possibly the most fun part of the game is collecting all of the different cats, as they are constantly adding more cats that each have unique abilities to help you conquer enemies. The actual tower defense portion of the game is also very fun, as it seems basic at first, but genuinely requires a lot of strategy and hard thinking. You can also level up cats to deal more damage, and they eventually turn into completely new and improved cats at certain levels. As for the negatives, really all there is the lack of things to do once you've beaten the game. Of course, I didn't beat the game in my video, as I only played the very beginning of the game, but I have beaten it myself on my phone, so I kind of have some experiences with this type of stuff. Once you beat the Battle Cats, though, all there is left to do is some pretty boring game modes. However, I still really enjoy the game, so the Battle Cats gets itself an 8.5 out of 10. Here it is, the big boy, Angry Birds 2. Obviously, everyone here knows the idea of the mainline Angry Birds games. Slingshot birds into towers to kill pigs, and each bird has different abilities, blah blah blah. Angry Birds 2 is no different from the original game, still staying on the same path, yet it's actually pretty fun. Of course, my video on the game really sucked, as my game audio was way too loud, but I still had a pretty nice experience before I reviewed the footage. Anyhow, the game also brings over a wave of nostalgia, as it is literally just a better Angry Birds. For the negatives, there's not really much to say. I mean, there's not much to say for the positives either. Listen, I made Freedom Games number 3 a while ago, it's late as of writing the script, and I'm too lazy to actually think properly. Angry Birds 2 is really just the first game but better, so it's not incredibly original, and I didn't really feel any connection to the game when I played it, so there's not really much else to say though. 6 out of 10. Learn to Fly 3 is a game where you are an incredibly intelligent penguin that tries to fly using several different machines and pieces of technology, upgrading your gear over time to improve your flight distance. It's basically like an idle game without the idle aspect, just doing the same thing over and over again to earn money for upgrades. Learn to Fly 3 is a pretty cool and interesting game. Of course, the Learn to Fly games are staples of most people's childhoods, as the original game was one of those 2000s Flash games. So, Learn to Fly 3 does have some nostalgia added to the experience. The upgrades in this game are also pretty cool, and it's a nice incentive to keep playing in order to get better upgrades and beat that high score. As for the negatives, the whole game is just doing the same thing over and over again. I know that's kind of the whole deal for these rinse and repeat games, but I'm just not a huge fan of this honestly boring and dull genre. Again, all games have some level of effort put into them. I don't mean to defend any developers here. Otherwise, Learn to Fly 3 is a classic and overall pretty nice game, so it gets a 7 out of 10. Alright, well, that'll be it for the second episode of reviewing every game I've played on StickManHere, and I hope you guys are enjoying this series. Anyways, go check out StickManHere, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye!